Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Nur Zakiyah, and together with Alia Farhana and Maisara, today we will be discussing a pressing demographic challenge that continue to shape the future of East Asia, which is the low fertility rate, specifically in China, South Korea, and Japan. Moving on to the topic outline, we'll start our presentation with introduction and then move on to the causes and consequences of each country and then our conclusion. As for introduction, these three countries, despite their economic advancement and technological innovation, are experiencing some of the lowest fertility rate in the world, well below the replacement level of 2.1 births per woman. So this issue isn't about fewer babies being born. It's also about growing aging population. This is because the current fertility rate in China, South Korea, and Japan are not simply sustaining the current population. So, throughout this presentation, we will be exploring the prominent root causes of this fertility decline, as well as examining the consequences that each country are now facing. Now, let's take a closer look at the prominent cause and consequences of low fertility in China. The primary cause is the China's long-standing population control measures, which is the one-child policy introduced in 1979. China, once averaging at 7 live births per woman in the mid 1960s, has experienced a sharp increase and then a drastic decrease following the introduction of this policy and a steady decline ever since. This policy has suppressed the birth rate through strict enforcement of fines and also forced reproductive measures. Even though the policy has been relaxed, its lasting influence on societal norms and demographic structures persisted. As shown in the graph, the fertility rates began to decline even before the introduction of this policy due to the economic reforms. But after the 1979, the drop has significantly steepened. Moving on to the major consequences is China persistent gender imbalance. Because of the strong preferences of boys over girls, many baby girls were aborted or abandoned. Between 1970 and 2020, China made up over the world missing females, which is accounted to 51%. By 2021, there were around 30 million more men than women. This imbalance not only reduced the number of potential mothers but also intensified the social pressures affecting the marriage rates and contributing to the overall decline in fertility and population.
For South Korea, fertility decline is driven by intense academic and economic competition, high cost of raising children, and changing gender roles. So the societal pressure to success academically and professionally often result in delay or avoided marriage and childbearing. So despite a recent policy effort to encourage fertility, cultural norms that prioritize education and career over family as well as economic insecurity continue to suppress birth rates. So if South Korea fertility rate stay low, the number of young people will continue to shrink while the number of elder people rapidly increase. So by 2050, about 1 in 3 South Koreans will be over 65, meaning there will be fewer workers to support more retirees. So this create major problem, which is economic burden on the workforce. Fewer working age people means less income tax and pension contributions. But the government will still need to spend more money on healthcare, pension, and elder care. To manage this, the government may have to either raise tax on younger workers or cut benefit for the elder, both of which are unpopular and difficult choice.
Japan's fertility decline began earlier than in most other countries, and one of the main reasons was the government's support for voluntary birth control policies. After World War II, Japan was concerned about overpopulation, especially with limited resources during the post-war recovery. To solve this, the government started promoting birth control as a way to reduce the number of births. In 1948, abortion was legalized and contraceptives like male condoms were widely encouraged. The goal was not to force people, but to give them the option to control family size. As a result, the fertility rate dropped quickly and has remained low ever since, becoming a long-term issue for the country. One important consequence of Japan's low fertility rate is the decline in unintended pregnancies and abortions. This means that fewer people are getting pregnant by accident, and in general, fewer pregnancies are happening overall. The falling abortion rates also suggest that sexual activity may be decreasing or people are using birth control more carefully. In Japan, these numbers are lower than the East Asian average, which shows that the fertility crisis is more serious and more advanced compared to other countries in the region. This trend is not a direct cause, but it clearly shows how Japan's low fertility is shaping people's lives and choices in long-lasting ways.
To conclude our presentation, it clears that the declining fertility rates in East Asia are not just numbers, they reflect deep-rooted historical, economic and social challenge. In China, decades of strict population control policy like the one-child policy have left a lasting impact, not only reducing the birth rate but also creating a significant gender imbalance. In South Korea, intense academic and economic pressure, along with the high cost of living and evolving gender expectations, have made many delay or even forgo marriage and childbirth. And in Japan, post-war effort to prevent overpopulation lead to widespread acceptance of birth control and declining interest in traditional family life. So these factors are now contributing to aging population, shrinking workforce, and increasing financial pressure on younger generation. So if this trend continues, East Asia may face serious long-term consequences, not just economically but also socially. That's why it's crucial for this country to implement supportive policy and foster a culture that encourages family life and balance work with personal well-being. So that's all from our group. Thank you.